Have you been to many of these kinds of protests before?
Yeah, I have.
Have you been arrested before?
Yes, 12 times.
12 times?
Yeah.
Okay, that's impressive,
Yeah.
very impressive.
Yeah.
You're a retired nurse,
Yes,
is that right?
retired
So I
nurse.
suppose as someone who's worked in nursing, you must think about the nurses in Gaza
Yes.
who are having to patch together people, blown up, shot and so forth.
Yes, the medical people are doing their best, but even they are hungry and weak. And they do their best, but I think there's very, very limited materials that they need, like anesthetics, and even people who are treated for their wounds aren't healing, which is not surprising because they're starving.
Every American sitting at home right now needs to realize that you are paying for a genocide.
Rise up! Rise up, America! Rise up! It is time to take back this country from these corrupt politicians. It is time. It is beyond time.
We're going out to the voting dog.
Thank you for your service.
Massive protests broke out in both Chicago and Washington, D.C. yesterday as fascist dictator of the United States, Donald Trump, posted on his trash social network, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War." And he put a little fake picture of himself with like bombs going off in the background over there and helicopters flying. And I guess, is this a parody on Apocalypse Now? It said Chipocalypse Now. I just don't get this. This is just so embarrassing. People around the world are making fun of him. They're making fun of the United States because of this shit. Let's take a look at those massive protests, shall we? I know what MAGA's going to say. I'm going to do my MAGA voice. That's not a very large crowd. There's only a dozen people there. Let's take a wider look, shall we? Five, six. I don't know if this is true or not. I have some friends in Chicago that I have some emails and calls into, but supposedly the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, ordered municipal salt trucks to create a mobile roadblock within the city limits to block Trump's federal troops from coming in. I don't know if this is true. There's some videos circulating around there. It might have been last winter. I don't know. If you live in Chicago, can someone confirm or deny this for me? Let's check out Washington, D.C. Way to go, Chicago. Way to go, Washington, D.C. Way to go, anybody who got out and protested either this weekend, last month. No King's Day 1.0. Kudos to you guys. I went out and protested a couple times. It was a lot of fun. No Kings 2.0, by the way, is being planned, scheduled for October 18th. Just a little bit more than a month away. So keep an eye out for a No Kings protest near you. Last time, millions and millions of Americans, true patriot Americans, took to the streets and protested the dictator, fascist dictator, Donald Trump. And we're going to do it again, October 18th. And MAGA is going to try to deter you, and they're going to try to scare you from going out. And Trump's going to say he's going to deploy troops to scare you from going out to protest. You don't get scared. You go out and protest. Don't let anybody intimidate you. Don't let anybody shut you down for anything that you are passionate about, not just protesting a dictatorship. Do not be afraid. Do not give in to fascism. Do not give in to bullies like Trump and the Trump administration, okay? You need to be heard. Be loud. Keep being loud. Tell your friends to be loud. And you can be loud by doing other things too. You don't have to protest. You can repost an article on social media. You can turn off the comments if you don't want to deal with it. You don't have to make inflammatory videos like I do. It's okay. But make a video. Turn off the comments if you don't want to deal with it. You would be shocked and surprised who sees your videos. I get messages and texts from people I haven't heard from in years and years and years saying, "I saw your video. I just want you to know, thank you for speaking up." So you don't know who you reach, ladies and gentlemen. Be loud. Do not be intimidated. No Kings 2.0. October 18th, 2025, coming to a patriotic city near you.
Multiple sources in the DC area have told me that guard units have began canceling their existing hotel reservations in DC. These are units that had reservations to be in DC that have abruptly canceled them. And from talking to people in the know, these units are being moved to Chicago and Baltimore. So that means we're taking our veteran protests to Chicago and Baltimore. We have not withdrawn a single dollar from the GoFundMe yet. That's starting this coming week. This coming week, we're going to begin withdrawing the funds. They're going to be used for our DC location and to open up a Chicago and Baltimore location, because veterans are going to take our protest nationwide against this military occupation of our cities. If you're a veteran in Chicago or Baltimore, I need you to hit me up. I need a point of contact on the ground in both those cities. I will personally be going to Chicago to oversee the opening of that, and one of our other organizers will be going to Baltimore. We will use funds from the GoFundMe to make all of this possible. Everything we've been doing in DC up until now has come out of our own pockets, minus in cash donations that we received on the ground. This was because we wanted everything to be set up perfectly right before we withdrew a single dollar from that GoFundMe. I want a treasurer overlooking every dollar spent, and I want an attorney on retainer. So that'll begin next week. We are also going to start a petition for veterans, supporters of veterans, and families of veterans to sign, demanding that Governor Pritzker of Illinois and Governor Moore of Maryland stand your ground against this illegal intrusion by this president. Do not back down. We, the American people, have your back. We, the veterans, have your back. We are going to set up veteran protests in your state against this illegal intrusion into your state. Stand your ground. Stay tuned in the next coming days. I will be publishing a petition that I want to hand deliver to Governor Pritzker, and I want to hand deliver it to Governor Moore. I also need a point of contact on the ground. I'll be traveling to Chicago very soon. This protest is going nationwide. Enough is fucking enough.
So let me ask a question to all the brain-dead MAGA chodes. You were celebrating that Donald Trump ran on a platform of releasing the Epstein files and no new wars. So why are you defending him when he's threatening Congress people into not voting to release those files? You also don't give a shit that he wants to spend your taxpayer dollars to rename the Department of Defense the Department of War, after he specifically said no new wars. I mean, fuck, it hasn't even been 8 months and he's already bombed Iran and Venezuela. But now he wants to rename that department because the Department of War sounds tougher. And how fucking stupid do you have to be head over heels in love with a guy who shouts no new wars, and then he renames the Department of Defense the Department of War, and then declares war on the US citizens in Chicago? He wants to spend $200 million of your taxpayer money to rename the Department of Defense because he's a fucking child. What was that he and Elon were saying about wasteful government spending? You don't think it's wasteful to spend hundreds of millions of dollars just to change the letterhead on a fucking department? Meanwhile, your grocery prices are going up, your healthcare premiums are skyrocketing, if you haven't lost your healthcare yet. We are losing more jobs than we're creating, unemployment and inflation are going up, yet you guys still think he's Jesus because he's trying to take guns away from trans people. I mean, fucking hashtag priorities, right? I hope you brain-dead fucks have 5 seconds of clarity before he throws you out on the street.
Did you guys hear about all those violent criminals at that Hyundai plant in Georgia that were detained by ICE as part of a major raid? Yeah, ICE went in and detained a bunch of South Korean workers because they were violent criminals. Oh, wait. Oh, no, we said we were doing violent criminals, but now we're just going after anybody and everybody, even people that came into this country on short-term work visas so they could stay for 90 days to help train employees of the plant to help make our country a better place to live and work through innovations of Hyundai and the South Korean people. But no, now we're going to be going after anybody and everybody, and South Korea is pissed, and rightfully so. As an Asian country, they do not take kindly to being disrespected publicly, and they are going to lash out and fight back, I guarantee it. We have made them lose face after Trump and their president sat down and agreed to continue to work together. And now the ICE agents, after this huge, long investigation and process, have gone into a Hyundai plant. And while nobody seems like they're under detainment now, they were detained. And these are people that are in the country that entered legally, that came here for just temporary work visas so they could help train in the plant and help make our workers more self-sufficient and better and able to produce products and goods so that we could have them here. And yet here they are being detained and targeted by ICE raids. This was supposed to be for the violent criminals, the most violent among us. That's who was supposed to be subject to these raids. It's not the case. It was never going to be the case. They're going to go after anybody and everybody. So I don't know if South Korea or anybody else thought they were going to be free from being a target of Donald Trump's, and they're just now waking up now that they've been victimized. But guess what? It's been happening to Mexicans. It's been happening to Venezuelans, Colombians, anybody else in between. And now South Korea just seems to be the next one up on Donald Trump's checklist of people to raid and treat like shit.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Republicans. I just wanted to come out here and just say good morning and let you all know that this shit show is flying at 100 miles an hour, but the defense of the shit show is flying at about 150. There are a lot of attacks going on. There are a lot of things going on that are just chipping away at everything having to do with everything we're supposed to be as a country, but most importantly, as a people. And that's the part that could concern those who are actually in touch the most, is the amount that humanity seems to have made a left. But it's not really humanity that's made a left, it's the voices of the negative that have gotten louder and stronger because they have taken control of how and the media does what they do. They have changed the narrative to where we can't see the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, millions of people worldwide, speaking up loudly, actively pursuing, stopping whatever it is at that point that's going. From the federal judges to the actual constitutionalists to the people who legitimately just figuring out how big of a mistake they made. The 99%, the resistance percent is growing, and it's already.
There's been a big breakup with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and now his new boyfriend is stepping up to the plate, and this is an evil MFer named Peter Thiel, who owns Palantir. Put up the headline. Trump taps Palantir to create master database on every American. This is utter insanity. It is dangerous and it is evil. But in order for you to understand how wicked and diabolical Peter Thiel is, I want you to watch every second of this clip from Now This Is Impact about Peter Thiel. It's only 1:20, but it's super duper important that you have this background as to what's heading to the United States of America and your privacy.
Was building a database to spy on every single American, and he tapped Palantir to do it, a CIA-funded tech company co-founded by tech billionaire and Republican donor Peter Thiel. In 2010, Thiel shared his real motivations out loud.
We could never win an election because we were in such a small minority that maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means.
Thiel knows his ideology could never win an election because he's skeptical of democracy, believes women shouldn't vote, wrote a book criticizing multiculturalism and diversity, and has defended. What he's arguing is that technology can bypass the need for majority support. That tech is Palantir. The perfect opportunity for Thiel to enact his plan came when Trump enlisted Palantir to build the most expansive surveillance infrastructure in US history. It would integrate sensitive records from all government agencies and use AI to profile behavior and identify individuals deemed risky by the system, giving the government more power than ever. The Trump admin claims more data could help them improve public safety and detect fraud, but we all know that's not what would happen. Former Palantir employees have warned that a centralized system like that could be used to surveil, target, and silence anyone the government disagrees with. It could also be used to influence public opinion. Remember Cambridge Analytica, the company that used data to build psychological profiles on Americans so they could manipulate their voting behavior during the 2016 election? Yeah, it would be like that, but on an even bigger scale. Even MAGA feels betrayed by this move. Nick Fuentes, a far-right Trump supporter, said, seriously, if Palantir isn't the deep state, then what is? We have to come together to stop this drastic expansion of government control and power.
All right, there you have it. That's how they are going to leapfrog over democracy and elections. Peter Thiel, interestingly, is a gay man. And I, as somebody who lives in the buckle of the Bible Belt, am always somewhat perplexed when somebody like Peter Thiel, who's in a minority, in a marginalized group, betrays his own group and the civil rights of his own group to kiss ass to the religious right. And this is a really interesting dichotomy here. You have the religious right marrying itself with probably non-religious oligarchs. And at some point, there's going to be a face-to-face on that. But Peter...
Did you see this raid at the Hyundai construction site? Well, this woman is allegedly responsible for the raid. Listen to what she had to say.
So there were 452 illegals, and I was the one that reported the information that I had to ICE. But it goes beyond just someone working illegally. Let me explain to you. These people are working for slave wages. Some are not getting paid. Some are being trafficked. They send money home to their country. They give money to their handler. They have hardly anything left. They live in homes of 5 families deep, have no quality of life. It's modern day slavery. So if you think that ICE is just going in and ripping people out of their jobs, these hardworking people that want a better life, well, guess what? Politicians have really screwed these people, because when they came here, they thought they were, hey, the border's open, we're coming in, we're going to get the 5-star treatment, and we can go to the big Walmart, and we can live in a 5-star hotel, and that's just not how it is.
So this is Tory Branham, a Republican candidate for Georgia's 12th congressional district, who as a politician should have thought about how shutting down the single biggest economic investment made by a company in Georgia's history would affect her constituents. This was confirmed by Rolling Stone, and according to the report, Tory recruited a Spanish-speaking union worker who had access to the site to become her informant. After hearing rumors of the construction site using undocumented labor and 3 worker deaths at the site. Ironically, the other workers trusted this union worker because he had previously helped them win lawsuits against unsafe work conditions. So Tory took the rumors and the information from the informants and gave it to authorities. Authorities did say that this was a part of a months-long investigation with multiple agencies, but did not mention that this was started by Tory. And Tory is proud of what she did, saying, quote, "This is what I voted for, to get rid of a lot of," and that word, but not everyone that was detained was undocumented. There are already reports that 2 people that were detained were engineers who came to the US to advise briefly on the work and were planning to go back to South Korea soon. Also, some crossed into the US undocumented, some had visa waivers and were prohibited from working, and some had overstayed their visas. But they didn't go there with the knowledge of who was working undocumented because they were harassing everyone, including people with status. When I first saw her video, I knew that she had no actual sympathy for the workers. Because if she did, she would have found a way to hold the corporation accountable and not send the Gestapo goon after the workers. All she did was help the Trump administration rip more families apart and financially ruin them for her political gain. So like I said in my first video, these are people whose only infraction was probably working without authorization. And I guarantee you that most of them would fix their status if this government didn't keep intentionally making it difficult for people to do so. But like I said before, this government wants to keep people undocumented so they can be exploited, used as pawns in these political games, and are the ones that end up being blamed for everything while the bosses and corporations get off free.
I'm getting real exhausted by the typical farmer in this country. Right off the bat, more than 1/3 of them already get government subsidies. They already get government handouts to help them offset their fucking farm wages. 2/3 of them voted for Trump, and now they're all crying because they're going to lose their family farms. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I hope everything you have burns down, and I hope your entire lineage looks at you like the fucking moron that you are. You literally voted to have your own hands cut off in the town square and have everyone laugh at you. And now that it's happening to you, you've got your metaphorical now missing hands in the air going, but guys, why is this happening to me? I made a video about the Nebraska situation about a month ago, and now apparently here a month later, it's so much worse than anyone could imagine. And I need these people to not be bailed out. I need them to not be bailed out because they will never learn until they lose everything. They need to be shamed in public. Everyone that knows them needs to look them in the face every time they see them and not say, "Oh, I'm so sorry this happened to you." Say, "You did this to your fucking self. You are a moron and you deserve everything that's happening to you right now." Because we are going to come in These farmers are going to get fucking bailed out. I know it. They are going to get bailed out, and they will never learn a lesson. They tried to set their own house on fire because they didn't like the fact that brown people are in this country and that trans people existed. And then they lost all their farm workers. Oh my God, guys, I can't believe this would have happened to me. Oh, you mean the thing that literally everyone smarter than you told you that was going to happen? But God forbid someone with a D next to their name or someone that identifies as a liberal tells you anything because you're such a fucking super genius, you goddamn morons. You went into your own dining room and took a massive shit and then threw your hands up and you went, how did the table get so dirty? You fucking nincompoop moron assholes. You deserve everything that happens to you. And good God, if I believed in a higher power, I would be praying that you get no handout ever again and everything you've worked so hard for burns up in your face. Because otherwise you are never, ever going to learn. And even if you do get the lesson, you're probably still not going to learn. So at the end of the day, I just need the satisfaction of knowing that you're in pain because of your own choices. Can I just have that? It would be Christmas early if I could just have that.
Watch this little 1-minute clip and then let's talk afterwards about this farmer, Scott Brown.
Scott Brown said they are struggling to afford the cost that is needed just to take care of the farm.
The prices that we're getting now are prices like they were when we were children, and what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now. I mean, the price of a combine when we were kids was, you know, in the 20,000s, and now it's 100,000.
I farm 800 acres by myself. I can't afford any help. I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. How's the guys farming 5 and 10,000 with 20 hands and $1 million combines and $1 million drills going to make it work?
But for Brown, there's something that rounds out all the issues that they are facing: the tariffs.
I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm. When you try to sell a product, okay, U.S. soybeans leaving New Orleans without the tariff to China are cheaper than Brazilian soybeans at the current market. But when you put the tariff on top of them, Brazilian beans are cheaper.
So how can this be fixed?
In the short term, they have no choice but to mail us a check. I don't know a farmer that likes the check program. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke. Nobody wants to lose everything.
That sounds a lot like socialism, Scott, and we just don't do that in this country. Now, we don't help people, Scott, but I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to pray for you, Scott. Dear God, thoughts and prayers. Amen. You're going to get the same bullshit that you give little children, God's children, when they're fucking murdered and identified by their dental records. Thoughts and prayers. Scott, there's just nothing we can do for you, man. We just can't. This sounds like a mental health issue. That's what it sounds like. It's actually not the farm equipment because, you know, the farm equipment doesn't move itself, Scott. It's actually people that do it. So it actually sounds like it's your problem. I mean, I would probably we'll get some help. But we had to cut that funding for mental health, Scott, because, you know, we really have to balance the budget. You know, the autistic kids that can't get their help because the Department of Education was dismantled. You didn't seem to care about them. Women that have a 52% increased mortality, like in Texas because Roe versus Wade was overturned, you didn't really care about them. Officer Sitnick that died the next day. The officers that have long-term disabilities that were beaten with American flagpoles on January 6th, you know, because the white man's a patriot. Somehow you didn't care about them. Don't care about people getting due process. You really don't care about anybody except for yourself. Don't care about people losing 16 million losing Medicaid, Medicare. Don't care about food or SNAP benefits being taken away where people are starving. You rejoice the Gulf of America because, you know, you're a patriot. You're America. You got guns. Yeehaw! So thoughts and prayers. Shove your cross right up your ass, Scott. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And all you have done is given a shit about yourself, Scott. It is who you are. It is who you've always been. Me, me, me. The party of selfishness. You literally only voted for yourself. And every 4 years, you ask yourself the same question. First, are you Republican? Check, check, check. Own the libs, baby. I want universal health care. I want you to have a living wage. I want you to be able to sell your crops. I want you to be able to retire. I want you to be able to sell your farm to your generation But you know the difference is you couldn't vote for the black woman because you're racist, Scott. You voted for the modern day Klan leader because he was the white man. Felonies, insurrection, rape, sexual assault, white supremacy, very fine people. Grabbing by the PUSSY, going into girls' locker rooms, going on Epstein Island. Nope, there's nothing I can do. Sorry. Hey, no one's perfect, but my farm gives me free money. Thoughts and prayers, Scott. Hey, thoughts and prayers. I'm sure if you just pray hard enough, Scott, Jesus will send you money because that's how thoughts and prayers work, Scott. So how about this, Scott? I have a deal for you. When you get off your ass and actually do something to save the lives of innocent women and children and men that are shot by schools, then we'll have a conversation. Then maybe one day you will actually hear the word of God talking to you instead of what you want to hear. How about that, Scott? Does that sound like a plan? Or is that just a bridge too far? Because then you're going to have to get a shit about somebody else. You have yourself a white day, Scott. Thoughts and prayers.
I'm seeing a lot of videos of MAGA people who happen to live in my state of Washington complaining about how expensive Washington is. The thing is, it's not unique to Washington. A MAGA in any blue state is going to be upset. And a lot of the anger is directed towards high prices. Little do they know that their energy prices here in Washington are going up because of Trump's tariffs. And we in Washington don't have an income tax. So to make up that loss revenue for the state, they get it elsewhere, like in sales tax or property taxes. But all taxes are voted on by the people. And most people wanted these higher taxes so that we could get more services. Now, this is where your anger comes in, because you hate the services part. You think everything should be about you, and nobody else should be helped by anybody. They should help themselves. And in the future or in the past, you either did or will use Washington services to your advantage. But that's where it ends for you. You think it should only be for you and everybody else be damned. This goes with anything that MAGA gets upset about. For instance, abortion. You guys are all against abortion until your daughter or your mistress gets pregnant, and then you're all for it secretly. Or if one of you lose your job, you'll gladly accept that unemployment check. Or should one of you get sick and not have health care, you'll gladly take whatever Washington has to offer for Medicaid. And unless you're homeschooling, well, even if you're homeschooling, Washington offers services for your homeschooling. The thing is, most blue states are more expensive than red states because they have more to offer its residents. And they usually have higher populations than red states. So there's more people wanting all these services. So to pay for them, people have to start paying taxes. Because guess what? If you did all of those things separately on your own, it would end up costing a lot more than you pay in taxes. Like insurance through a company. The more employees that a company has, the less in premiums that everybody has to pay because there's more people buying into it. That's how it is with all the services that Washington offers. Everybody's paying into it, but they're not paying as much as they would have individually because there's more people paying into it. But none of this matters because you guys just want something to be angry at. So all I have to say is the exact same thing that you guys say anytime we criticize Trump. If you don't like it, leave.
I have a question for my fellow blue state residents. Are we done yet? Are we going to keep going with this? Is this all even worth it? Is the United States worth all of this nonsense? I would argue that no, it's not. From a certain perspective, the United States is nothing if not the greatest wealth transferring scam in the history of history. There's simply nothing to compare it to in all of human memory. Blue states produce. Blue states innovate. Blue states are where the brain power is. Blue states actually create value. Red states, by and large, do not. Red states take more from the federal coffers, which are filled by those of us who live in blue states, and they put in nothing in return. And yet most of the federal largesse goes to the red states, Democrat or Republican administration. Most of it goes to them just to keep them afloat. And even then, they can barely keep themselves afloat. Mississippi, without Illinois, would be a failed third world country. Same for Alabama and Arkansas. None of these former Confederate states would be able to keep themselves afloat for even a solitary week without all of the billions of dollars that flow into them from the blue states, courtesy of the federal government. People in red states love to talk about Chicago as if it's like this cesspool of crime, ignoring the fact that Memphis, Tennessee is far more dangerous. You are much more likely to be the victim of violent crime in Memphis than you are in Chicago, and that's just a fact. So let's not overlook the fact that there is some racial animus to this particular hatred of Chicago. And that's, I think, common amongst most of the red states. They're aware that blue states and blue cities tend to be more racially diverse, and they hate that. Here's the point. J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, Governor Hochul of New York, and I think a few others have floated this idea of soft secession, which I think is a fantastic idea. Basically, what that entails is that the blue states would cease sending monies to the federal government. We would essentially grind it to a complete halt. If our funding disappears, the federal government has no choice but to start printing money, which devalues currency, which will hit the red states harder than the blue states because they have no productivity. They don't make anything. If we did this, it would probably only take a couple of months before people were literally starving in some of the southern states like Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and probably within 6 months, people would be fleeing those states in desperation because they would be on the brink of collapse. Let's not forget the fact that most of the former Confederacy, without the largesse of the federal government as funded by blue states, would just be considered failed nation states. So that's it. You hit them where it hurts, you make sure it stings, and you don't let them stand back up until you're sure they got the point. I don't know. What do you think?